What's a top stock that you think could be a 10 bagger from here? Jamal, I'm going to put you on the spot and let you go first here.
You're going to kick it to me. One of the things that I've always done is try to see what's the next, right? And I think what we've established, particularly as it comes to sort of the e-commerce arena, there's been a whole host of next Amazon sort of on a geographical basis, right? You have your Mercado Libre in Latin America, you have sort of, C Limited in, Southeast Asia. And one that I think you own is Jumia Technologies. So I know it's expensive. Any e-commerce in sort of the developing world is going to be expensive. It trades at around 30, 31, sometimes up to 35 times price to sales ratio. And it's roughly about a $5.5 billion market cap. Sort of in the long run.
That's the key, right? It's a $5 billion market cap, and the countries that it operates in have like 800 million people population, and it's the youngest economy. If you consider it one economy, which is not fair, if you consider one economy, it's the youngest economy, and it's growing like crazy, right?
That's right. And I think one of the bigger sort of short-term catalysts or near-term catalysts, and what's always sort of prevented it from being sort of on that next echelon of growth, or be considered that, is sort of underdeveloped infrastructure, right? Both, sort of roads, factories, et cetera, but more often the digital infrastructure. And I think what we're starting to see is a lot of investment, a lot of movement on that. I think Google is working to sort of develop sort of undersea cables to the continent, and Facebook has a very ambitious goal to essentially circle the continent of Africa and to bring sort of speeds that are equivalent to, I think, 180 terabytes per second, which is a lot stronger than sort of what the average, throughput is right now. So it's a smaller company, it's in a high growth area, and there's the catalyst of sort of increased digital infrastructure. So if you're asking for me what's the next 10 bagger from an e-commerce play, I think that's probably going to be what I'm choosing right now.
It's definitely higher up the risk reward, right? Because they've got to figure out that last mile, which I think we found in the markets they operate. It's hard to do that in lots of different parts of Africa. But they've got like you said, the digital payment and all that other things that
yeah, actually, I'm glad that you brought that up. That is something as well, and I think that's something that tends to get overlooked, right?
Right. It's called Jumia Pay is right. What they call it, yeah.
And if you look at M-Pesa, sort of in Kenya and some of those other places, adoption of sort of that mobile and digital currency where it was even above and faster than what you saw in America. And some of that was because it was not only easier, it was required. So I think what you're going to see is sort of a skipping over of a generation of technology and a lot of people coming into that. And that's going to be very similar to what you see with Mercado Pago, if I'm pronouncing it right. So
if you don't know how to pronounce it, Danny Venna can correct us.
That's right.
Lovely. Okay, Danny, what do you got for us, buddy?
I'm going to buck the trend here because it's a lot easier to look at the market cap of a company and go for the smallest market cap company that you can get, which is what I did the other day. When I called out Fiverr.
Okay, I was gonna say, you calling Jamal out? Is that what you're doing?
No.
You're calling yourself out on this.
That's right. So now I'm going to go with something that has a much larger market cap that I still think can be a 10 bagger from here. And Jason will not be shocked when I say it is Roku. Now, Roku right now has a market cap of about 59,
just under 60 billion.
60 billion.
Yep.
But yet, if you look at what the company's doing and looking at the growth that it's generating right now, I mean, this is a company that just recently passed Amazon Fire TV for the number of active users. The company said, in its most recent quarterly report, it had 46 million monthly active users. And then when it announced preliminary results, it said that number had jumped to 51 million. So that's 5 million new monthly active users just in the most recent quarter. The number of streaming hours is up. The number of Average revenue per user is up. What's most important, though, is that the aspect of the company's revenue generation that comes from digital advertising. It's platform revenue, which includes digital advertising, the Roku channel, and the company's operating system that it licenses out to television manufacturers. That revenue is up 78% year over year. I think the biggest drivers going forward is the fact that it's only just begun to expand into international markets. So there's a little bit of a presence in the UK, a little bit of a presence in Latin America, but the fact that it makes all these deals with television manufacturers, puts the operating system in there, and then Roku's available as long as you have one of these TVs. You don't have to go out and buy a dongle. And the digital advertising revenue is growing at like a weed for this company. So I think that the international opportunity is tremendous. And I think that within the next decade, Roku will be a $600 billion company. And I think it'll be a 10-bagger from here.
Bold statement, but the company's growth and the change, the way that people consume entertainment is, I don't think it's as wild. I don't think it's as wild of a bet as it might seem on the outset. So I got inspired. We had Deidre Woolard on yesterday, and she inspired me to think a little more broadly about this question, because we've asked it. This is the third time, and the first two times I went with Kinsale Capital, the specialty insurer. That's a small cap company that's very well run and I love. But I decided I wanted to talk about something different, and that's a company. It's in real estate. It's in an area of real estate that just had a really tough year. But it's in an area of real estate that has enormous tailwinds for growth, and that's seniors housing and seniors care. And the company I'm talking about is CareTrust REIT, ticker CTRE. Now, here's just kind of, I'm going to underpin this a little bit. I'm going to share a table here and start with a couple things. So if you go back to when the company went public, it was spun out of the Ensign Group in late 2014. There was a one-time dividend that was part of this spin out, but adjusting from right after that one-time dividend was paid, so you get to the point where the recurring quarterly regular dividend was implemented, they've doubled the dividend and increased it every single year since becoming a public company, right? So I think that's an important kind of starting point to think about being a 10-bagger, is that this isn't a company that the stock is necessarily going to 10-bag in a 10-year period, okay? So, but I think when you start thinking about total returns, I think CareTrust is in a very, very good position to do that, because over the next decade, the baby boomer generation is going to essentially completely retire. By 2030, every baby boomer will have retired. And this is the 4.3% dividend yield you get today. But when the last baby boomer retires at the end of 2029, there are going to be 80 million Americans who are 65 or older. There's going to be 40 million Americans who were 80 or older. This is a generation that's going to outlive any prior generation. We're going to need to make sure we have proper housing, proper healthcare housing. So you think about rehab facilities, you think about skilled nursing facilities, you think about active seniors communities. There's going to need to be a tremendous increase in the number of those facilities over what there are today, because even once we get to that peak, you're going to start seeing the Gen Xers, my generation, they're going to start retiring as well. So you're still going to see some continued steady populations in that older group for a very, very long period of time. Now, what to me underpins CareTrust's ability to get to that 10-bagger status? I'm going to kind of go backwards on what I said here about it necessarily getting to a 10-bagger from a market capitalization, from a stock level price, because it could in the next 10 to 15 years, because you already have Welltower, it's a $28 billion company. You have Ventas, which is a $19 billion company. Those are two of the largest companies in that space. But again, this is a company that's going to issue some stock at times to raise capital. So you could see some dilution. But again, when you start underpinning it with the growth of the cash flows and the dividend that it can pay out, I think if you look 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I think CareTrust REIT is going to be one of the biggest seniors housing REITs in the world. And I think there's a huge trend that's driving it. And these guys have the leadership in place with a very good track record of delivering strong returns, really smart acquisitions to build a really, really much larger profitable business. So you don't have to buy tech stocks to get potential 10 baggers. So mark down CareTrust REIT, guys. I think it's worth a look.